That works well. Okay. So, to start off this book club meeting, did you have any questions about the story, before we all finished it?
On page 319, I had a question.
Yes?
So, once I figured out he had Roland's arm, I was wondering how does it make him feel? Because I was wondering, like, how does he, it doesn't really kind of show how he feels about
Um,
it.
honest,
319.
as I was saying, even though it's well, not Congo, Roland's arm, it doesn't really matter to him because it's not like Roland anymore, it's just an arm. And plus, like in where is that? Um, in
Chapter 6.
and no, in on page 322, there's something crucial moment for both of them, something. I know this is your hand now, she tells him. Roland would have never touched me like that. Connor smiles and Louisa takes a moment to look down at the sharp in his wrist. Whatever, you can read the last paragraph yourself. Point is, he doesn't care that it's Roland's arm anymore.
Can I say something to that?
Yeah.
Okay, the thing is, I thought, like, because he was so, like, when he saw Risa, and then Risa knew that it was Roland's arm, you could tell that he didn't want to touch her with it, because he didn't want to hurt her with it. And you could tell he was like a bit shocked at first, and he's probably still a little afraid, because, it's Roland's arm, and he probably feels bad about it. But you can see that he accepted the fact that he got Roland's arm after a while. But if he had the choice to choose between getting an unwind's arm or not, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have chosen it if he was awake. So.
When I first figured out when they said he looked at his new hand and there was like a little like a little tattoo of a shining shirt. Yeah. I was like really confused at first and I was like, what does this have to do with anything? And then I realized it was Roland's arm. And at first I was wondering, because Roland got unwound in the first place because his blood was in high demand.
Yes.
And I was thinking, like, even though Roland's like blood is like, I was just really interested because even though his blood is really unique and it is wanted, his arm isn't. It's like what holds the blood is not like special. So I just thought that was really interesting.
I think it's more like not like philosophy or anything. It's more like actual monetary value because an arm would probably be worth less than like a brain or a heart. I mean, like in that way, something rare would be worth more because they probably have like millions of arms.
Well, in the beginning it said that they got all of the blood out, so, if all the blood's out, they would keep, like, the arm alive with this oxygen-rich solution, so I guess the arm wasn't as worth much, because, all the precious blood is gone, so, yeah, it's kind of just an arm now.
Yeah, I agree with you because they did say that they were taking all the blood out and they were using that, and then the arm would, like, he would circulate his own blood in, so that would make sense.
Yeah. What did you guys think of chapter 68 where Pastor Dan told Lev he was leaving the church? Because I was, at first I just thought maybe there wasn't a certain reason, but then I realized what if he kind of did, because of him, Lev has gotten into this position and he's hanging in this room. Like maybe he felt part of it was his fault for telling Lev to run or like telling Lev to run. I thought it was because he felt bad for Lev, that he was maybe part of the reason why he was there.
I think what happened was Lev kind of triggered him to realize that he wasn't for unwinds and he wasn't for what the people who were saying what the Bible really meant. Because they did say earlier in the book that the Bible said that unwinding was okay and that Moses was the first unwind for that.
No, he was the first, like,
he was
stork.
the first stork, sorry.
Yeah.
That was
Sorry, I'm not very Anyways, so they were saying that, and that would, and I think that kind of triggered it to the priest, and he realized, and he said, you lost your faith? He said, no, he said, I just lost my convictions. I still very much believe in God, just not a God who condemns a human typing.
Right.
Oh.
And also, I agree. And um, right. So I forgot what I was gonna say.
Okay.
Something
Okay.
else?
So in the beginning when like Lev, got kind of kidnapped by Connor, he was like run, and then after when Lev like called Pastor Dan, he was all like, you have to run from us because we're the ones trying to take away what your life could be. And I think that like he did feel this way, but he like something kept him from going out because he was probably scared of being judged. But when he found out that Lev was like a clapper for a moment, but he didn't clap, I guess that gave him the strength to actually leave. So, I think he was just scared of like saying out loud that he didn't like the idea of typing and unwinding. But now he has the strength to leave the church and follow his own God, I guess. So.
Because like religion, I don't know what I was gonna say. Religion is like a very much like a personal thing. Like you can be part of the Catholic Church, but you are part of the Catholic Church. It's not like the entire. It's not like the entire Catholic Church is just one body, but it's like made up of people. And like he chose to believe in a church that didn't support teething because according to him that's wrong. But like still, even he's just one person. So then the entirety of society is like what he's against, not just his religion.
Did anyone else have any more questions they wanted to ask?
I had a question. It was when he was at the pawn shop because I said sci-fi, like we went mad. Yeah. So, on page 159, similar place to this, it says, oh yeah, like unwind also never admit that. Oh wait, no. Yeah. Oh yeah, unwind do show up at his shop, never admit it. Like why would them admit that he was an unwind instead of just like pretending not to be one, like everyone else?
Okay. No.
Sorry. I think it's because he wanted to scare him a little bit, because in kind of their culture, their like civilization, unwinds usually if they're not like caught or like unbound, they're obviously dangerous. So I think what he was trying to do, or in his eyes, he was trying to maybe scare the pawn shop owner or like intimidate him.
Well, I thought he used it kind of as like a shock factor, and to I think he had it all planned out because Lev is a pretty smart guy, and he when he was asking like, oh yeah, but it's not worth much, he was like, you wouldn't have offered this, and he kind of knew how everything worked out in this like world that he hadn't been introduced to before, and another thing is that he when he says. Well, when the pawnbroker says that this throws the pawnbroker for a loop of a whole lot of reasons, I guess you want to use it against the pawn. Like you want to be like, why is he admitting this? Is he like braver, or does he have like something special reason to do or something here? And I guess he just wanted to use the shock factor and then get to business. I guess so.
In around the same area, kind of at the end, when the person, the owner of the pawn shop the pawnbroker brought Lev into the back room, and they were doing like the deal. I thought when the pawnbroker was, when he said, or when he thought it was like, he was surprised that, like with what Lev did, because he took this, but this is like even more. Like he knew a lot more, and he like kind of schemed the man. Like he schemed, like I feel. Well, yeah, I feel that the way he schemed him, it reminded me of Connor, and I felt that at the beginning, Lev was like a little scrawny kid that like always played by the rules, and he wasn't like special or different in any way. And so I think after being with Connor and learning like his ways, because he's pretty out there, I think that he's learned of it, and that even the meeting Connor was helpful for Lev.
Okay. Well, I think that it says the pawnbroker even said like deal, and he sighs that he's been in, and then he talks about like maybe the kids think that he won, and then he's like losing, and I think that Lev knew this because he planned everything out. He knows how like he would act. He knows how oh yeah, I'm gonna pretend that I won, and this is a hard deal, and yeah, I guess like I guess just Lev knew what was going on, but in the end, it was still a good deal because he got more. So it was like a deal for both of them, but he didn't get exactly scammed that much because instead of 500, he got like 1,500. So it was a pretty good deal.
When you say it's a good deal, like later on in the book, it says like, oh, they could only use it for food because it would be weird if the kids take their own fares. And that way, it's like not really a good deal because it kind of got wasted in that way.
Well, at least they don't have to lie for food
Yeah.
now. So it's one good thing. Maybe you can buy clothes or it's just a small step, but it can help a lot.
Yeah.
So.
I kind of disagree about the fact that Lev got this from Connor. I think that he developed it himself over the course of being with sci-fi and getting street smart, but also in the process of getting street smart and learning more about the world, he also started losing faith in other people because he was witness to sci-fi's whole situation of having a split personality, and his parents would rather comfort each other than comfort their kid. Although their kid is just a part of Cyrus's brain, not a sci-fi's brain. The sci-fi is the two people.
No, it's
Cyrus Finch, and then he had a brain like a guy called Tyler. So.
No, they called him Sci-Ty.
Sci-Ty. No, he called himself Sci-Fi, but like when he knew the guy's name Tyler, he was like Sci-Ty. Yeah. So.
Anyway, yeah. So he also lost his faith, not only his religious faith, but also his faith in other people until he met Pastor Dan again, and then he resolved his conflict with the world.
Yeah. Also, I had a question. It kind of goes throughout the book. I wrote it in chapter 39 when he went to take Roland and he kind of confessed, not to him, but he said it here. He was planning to spike the drinks, create a peep fest, and then blame it on the Admiral. And it says, yes, there are plenty of things Connor could have found out about. I was wondering, even though he could have kind of made people angry, how would he convince people to rebel? Also, how does the Admiral not have kind of like a defense or kind of people like guards or something? Because these kids are a lot of them are dangerous. Why wouldn't he have anyone to protect him? For example, when they were all attacking his plane, no one was there.
Cyrus has kind of established that no one other than the kid and 2 or 3 officers is at the hangar for the sake of secrecy, and because there's also 100-something kids, so unless you have the equivalent of I don't know, an army, I guess, actual armed people, several armed people, then you won't be able to stop that kind of thing. Also, you have to realize that I remember where it says this, that the whole part of them at the graveyard, before Roland is taken in a helicopter, it states that they've been in the graveyard for 2 months. So Roland's been building up this the kids' distrust of the Admiral for 2 whole months.
Well, also, not a lot of people, if they did know about the Admiral, having all these kids and helping them out and helping them from staying, from helping them not become unwound. Not a lot of people, if they knew about it, they'd be up to helping. Because if you think about it, everyone thinks, oh, unwinds are crazy. They have so much hate inside for thinking that someone wants them unwound, and they're dangerous. So I don't think a lot of people would help if they had the choice to, because it's something so different from what they're used to.
Does anyone have any more clarifications or questions?
Well, I do want to add on one more thing about that. It's just that how you were talking about what you guys were talking about how the general didn't have a protection. Well, there's 400 kids, and they can't exactly survive without the Admiral. So I guess he just relied on the fact that he's giving these guys a home and a path to freedom or the age of 18. And yeah, so I think that if there wasn't Roland there, and if there wasn't a Cleaver guy and the five Goldens didn't die, and basically it was still the same going on. Like Connor and his like gang never came. I guess it would be the same thing because they were the kids. They would work and they would get to the age of 18 and they would live. So
Also, I noticed something really cool on page 330, and it goes on to through page 331, and it's through that anyways. So the second paragraph, like going on from page 330, this is the complete like the exact like words used on the first time they arrived at the graveyard, like the exact same words. Like I read through it and I flipped back to the other part, and when you read it, it's actually the same thing. It's saying like he's faced by a flashlight, and the flashlight roars that he could see. It's not an adult who opened the crate, but another kid. He wears khaki clothes and smiling then, showing bracelets and teeth that don't seem to need them. And they're actually like exactly the same. It's really interesting. I think it's cool that the author actually repeated like the whole thing, but it's at the end of the book and it's kind of with different people like Connor's friends and him also. So
I also thought it was interesting how the author at the beginning, it was like the first, like I think 5 chapters or something like that. It was how all of their stories interconnected, and that they explained it per one, like per person. But I think it was interesting how at the end she kind of did the same thing, but it was just like what life was like for them now. Yeah, all of them connecting at the beginning keeps them connected at the end. I thought that was really cool.
yeah, I noticed that happened a lot. So I'm guessing that was kind of like one of her like patterns that she wanted to use in her writing.
Mm-hmm. Well, Karan, do you have anything to say? 330.
Oh yeah. So when they say that like Lev, it's on page 140. Or Lev, they realize that for some reason he somehow realizes that the kid lives in Jocelyn. Like I was wondering how he figured that out because like I read it and I couldn't figure that out. And then like I was finding it hard to deduce that because like I'm wondering how he could deduce it based on the information he was given.
I think that because he didn't deduce that he was in Joplin, he just knew because, like, he has Tyler's brain, and Tyler was in Joplin, so it's like, if you look at a photo of something, if you look at a photo of the IRC, but you've never been to the IRC, and then, like, you go there in the factory, you see it, and you say, you know that's the IRC, but you haven't actually been there. That's, like, kind of the same case.
Like, I was like talking like how did Lev the kid whose brain piece that was lived in Jocelyn, like based on the information that
Because
Sci-fi told him.
Sci-Fi was talking about it.
Yeah.
It was on one of the pages, I don't remember.
It was like in one of the other pages in the chapters before. Okay.
I know that every time we've done a book club so far, we've always brought up the topic of does being unwound actually kill the person or like take the soul and stuff? And at the end, when they are in when they're in Joplin, it's everyone that got a piece of Humphrey Dunphy, and every part of him, like they all remember something. Like on page 334, it's like look over there, he fell off that wall when he was like 6, and it's all of these people remembering something because they got a part of him. And so, what do you guys think now about being unwound? And do you guys think that it does actually kill someone, or do they still live on?
I think it doesn't kill like the body parts and maybe some of the memories left, but I think it does kill like the person's chance at like a future. Because there's so many things that they could have done if they had, all their body parts together and like all the things they could do. And even though it might like save people medically, to have like the body parts and stuff, I think it's just like it's I still think like the same way, but when you were like seeing the chapter where Roland was getting, unwound, did you read it? Like, what did you guys think? Because I just thought, this is just really weird, and in the end when he was like I dot 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 I dot dot dot, you can see that like all his thoughts are gone, so he can't exactly have like a perspective of stuff anymore in his life. He can't like vote, he can't choose stuff. Because like all of him is just like scattered around in different pieces. So I think it's just a bad idea. So, yeah.
In my opinion, I agree with what you said. I also think, adding on to how you think like it takes away their thoughts and kind of their chance, I think it takes away their hope. And also, about hope, I noticed on page 3 to 35,
Yeah.
Connor said, "At last, he allows himself the wonderful luxury of hope." And Risa actually said this when they reached the graveyard and she got her job and she felt like she fit in. She said, "At last," or it said, "At last, she allows herself the wonderful luxury of hope." So I think that's cool how the author repeats things. I think that's like a common thing that she does in the book. Yeah, it's a motif.
Yeah, I guess like when you're getting chased and that you want your parts, it's just you don't have any hope left for like the humanity or like your future. You just want to run. Right now, you just want to survive. You can't think about the future, and that kind of gets rid of your hope. So when you finally get to like a safe haven and you get a new chance at life, it's like, oh my God, I can like start believing in like a future for myself now. So yeah.
I actually want to say to you earlier that you guys having a good discussion.
Yep.
So based what she asked about if it's going to let you live on, it lets you live on in a different way. It's like you're not yourself anymore. Now you're basically just body parts with somewhat a bit of consciousness. But like you're not really yourself anymore. You don't look like yourself. You won't get the same things that you would have gotten if you were yourself.
Yeah.
Well, I think that being unwound, I think it's a horrible thing that people have the option to do to their children. But I think it's also a good thing in the sense that if someone that you knew or you were close with, they were unwound, a part of them still lives on. So like it's not only memories you had with them and other people had with them, it's actually like different. It's actually them just in someone else. It's the exact like ideas, I think. So it's interesting to see that like even though it's not actually themselves and they can't say like they can't actually say what they're feeling about a situation if you're with the person that has like I don't know. It's just really interesting that they still live on but they're not alive.
As I said before, it just depends on what you define as alive. Because they're biologically alive, but are they? Because does life constitute as like what you do or what you are? Because if you are, then you are body parts, heart, brain, whatever. But if like it's what you do, then like it's different because if you can't, let's see, you can't vote, you can't buy something, you can't shake something, then you're not alive.
Yeah. Like to me, being alive is more like it's like a connect. It's like two things. It's like what you look like that defines who you are. Like in a way, no, I'm not saying it just defines, but like to me, it's like you're alive because like you have a certain physique or like a certain appearance. It's also like what you do. If you can't do certain things, then you're not considered alive. For example, yeah, like you said, like you can't buy stuff or like shake someone's hand, and I don't consider that being alive.
Yeah.
I think that unwinding, I think it's kind of, I'm not saying it's a great idea, but I'm saying that the concept they started with was okay. But I think the laws and how they kind of get there is, I think that's bad because I think that the parents shouldn't be able to choose if their kid dies. I think it should be the person's choice, like the one, if they think, like if they kind of feel like they've had all like potential or they feel like they want to do like if they want to be around or they want to like kind of contribute to society that they can like or they can like donate as we do in our world.
That like goes against the policy of unwinding because the point of unwinding is as they said, I don't know which page this is again, but they said it's retro. Um, there's there's a page that's like the Bill of Life. Um, however, between the ages of 13 and 18, a parent might choose to retroactively abort a child. So that's the point of unwinding. They got rid of abortion, but they replaced it with unwinding.
Oh, I understand.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not necessarily an act of like.
It's not an act of murder. It's like you are not allowed by law to abort a child, but you're allowed to unwind them. So like, or you can stork them, which is like the alternative. Because you're not allowed, because like if you don't want the baby, then you can stork it. If you don't want, if you want to kill the baby, well, then it grows up into something that you don't want, then you unwind it.
I think that it's actually just as bad. And honestly, I think abortion is better than what they had changed. Do you think they're going to change it back after all the rebellions?
I don't know, possibly, because no spoilers. I think I agree with you that it's just as bad because honestly it might be even worse because although the person doesn't technically die, they don't like technically live either. And also, oh, no, when you abort like a fetus, the fetus doesn't know it's being aborted. The fetus is like not alive in a traditional sense because it hasn't done anything. Because right now you're defining life as what you're doing. But then if you unwind some kid, then like they're already done. They already know. They already have aspirations and dreams, and they've done things in life. It's kind of worse.
Well, I think that your point is like really interesting that they got rid of abortion, but like went with unwinding because like abortion, like like abortion, you're either for it or against it, and why you're for it or why you're against it changes between different people because different people have different opinions, and so I feel like as as time goes on, there's always two sides to an issue or two sides to a choice, but there's always different reasons to someone else. So I feel like even though they switched abortion to unwinding, it's still kind of like the exact same thing. It's just the way you view it.
And well, I think that it's still, even if it's like, oh yeah, if overpopulating or something, you gotta like kill your kids to save other kids. It's just one thing. It's just they kind of are they're kind of abusing this, aren't they? They're like a bunch of camps, harvest camps, and then there's like a pack of like juvie cops to catch these kids. And I just think that it's a good thing that you can save somebody's life, but unlike if it was like unwinding an older person who chooses to get unwound, it's unwind or unwound. What? Yeah, it's just they don't get to choose. They don't get a chance at redemption in their future life or something. And it's just kind of as I said before, it's messed up. So.
Is there anything else?
Actually, I'm kind of interested as to like the kids who are born with like autism or like Down syndrome, or like with like severe birth defects or something like that. Because you can't abort your kid anymore, and then you store them. So then, how many like there must be like millions of like disabled kids. But at the same time, you can't unwind a disabled kid, as it says at the end of the book.
But also, it's really interesting. That's actually a good point. But if you like if you bring up a disabled child, I think it's like horrible that they can't. Like, say you were given a child, like they left it on your doorstep, you're stuck with the child, and so it's horrible to think that from the day that if you were disabled, if from the day you were born and you're given to your parents, you're unwanted, but there's nothing they could do towards that. So they might treat the kids horribly because they know they can never unwound evil.
So,
Is
now
there
that
any-
you finished the book, what do you guys think of it? Did you guys like it?
Yeah, I loved it.
I think
It was nice to read. Yeah.
It was really nice. I think that it kind of, yeah, it was, I think it's one of my favorite stuff in the book.
Okay. Wait,
Because I usually
guys. Oh, sorry. Oh, done? Okay. Guys. Okay. Now that we're done with the book, it's time for spoilers. Okay.
No.
Who's gonna finish the series?
I think
I might read the
I might
series,
read
but
all of it.
honestly, please no spoilers.
Okay, plug your ears. Okay, Kira, Karan.
No, please, I don't want to hear it though.
What?
I don't want to hear it though. I guess I should try
Okay,
my
guys.
best to read it.
Okay,
no
I'm just
one
gonna.
wants to hear you. No one wants to hear you.
Connor gets.
We're done.
No.
I will.